Merry holidays, everyone, from the Chicken Coop. We brought in a new guest to actually talk about what they're doing. Our guest is wow. I was he is the founder of uh, Dope Martian and HormoneForMe.com. But before that, he has a backstory that while I'll just put it to you this way. He was the center of Operation Cyber Juice. And I was just like, what is this, the 1980s, where everybody uses cyber for everything to like justify cybernetics or whatever. But anyway, his name is Ryan Root. Ryan, let me introduce you with the ceremonial bakak. And that being said, before you before we delve into what you're doing now, I gotta admit, when I first read the like before your hormone optimization branding, the testosterone underground ring you were running, I'm looking into it, I'm like, dude, like, how did you get into that?
Yeah. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. It was, yeah, it's quite a story, and yeah, it's when I look back, yeah, it was kind of amazing how everything evolved and everything just kind of came about. And sometimes you forget where you can't. I don't know, like when your head's buried in your current position, right? When you're in the weeds and you're just pushing to move forward and you're just working to complete steps, right, to a larger goal. You forget about how far you've come and where you've been. And like sometimes when you step back and look back, you just go, "Holy cow! Like this has been quite an adventure." So yeah, like how did I get into it? Like so, I guess it started when I was when I now know I had low testosterone my whole life, right? So that started my journey on hormones, on understanding hormones, and really diving into this and making my entire life about hormones and really how to optimize yourself and the massive benefits that can be incurred by them. So when I was 13, I got picked on for being really skinny. It was kind of brutal, like in the gym locker rooms and after gym class and everything. So I didn't want to get picked on anymore. So I started to figure out, all right, how do I not be skinny? So I started hitting the weights, right? And I never looked back. However, I didn't mature like my peers, right? Like I worked really hard. I put in a lot of effort and I got half the results of my peers. Like any one of my peers could have, they all matured more than me, like, deeper voices, facial hair, started getting facial hair. I never even grew facial hair until I started taking testosterone in my 20s, right? So, I put in a lot of effort in the gym. They could just lift weights for a few months and surpass me. It was just, and consequently, I had also had other symptoms of hormone deficiency, right? I was fatigued, lethargic, depressed. Um, Consequently, I kind of let myself get walked on. I would get called a lazy piece of shit by adults, right? Because I didn't have the ambition. I had to take naps every day, and people just thought that I was just lazy. I just got called lazy. So I kind of thought like, okay, well, I guess this life thing is really hard for me to do. I can't really do it. I'm just tired all the time. I don't know. I'm fatigued. I don't have much motivation. So I was depressed. I let myself get walked on. I was a people pleaser. Right? I just kind of, followed people in a beta type of manner. So in my early 20s, I knew something was wrong, and I knew I knew I started to learn just a very little bit about testosterone. So I asked my doctor. I went to the doctor, and no doctor would help me. They said that there's no way anybody in their early 20s can have low testosterone. We're not even going to test you. So they wouldn't even test me. So, I took my health into my own hands and I started taking my own testosterone. I acquired it from the black market and I took testosterone at 23 years old. And it dramatically improved my quality of life to the point where I lived two different lives, two completely different worlds. Like for anybody who goes to the gym, like what happened to me is I put on 32 pounds of muscle and 100 pounds on my bench press in just 5 weeks. And so right there, that kind of, like I hyper responded, right? So like that
Yes.
transformation kind of shows you like how much my body was starving for testosterone and the effect that it had. So, and I don't want people to think that it was ultimately just about strength because that's kind of like the stigma behind testosterone is that, oh, you just had to take it, right? and you just build your muscles. Well, that's not all. That's one of the very beneficial effects that it does, but there's a lot of other effects too. Um, I suddenly had energy. I was very now it turns out energy, ambition, motivation, confidence. Turns out I wasn't a lazy piece of shit. I actually had a lot of ambition and motivation. I just needed the proper amount of testosterone. So, um, let me tell you about how the world treats you. Like, there's more to testosterone than just that, too. Like I said, like just a different air about me. I was just a new person. Like cognitive function, it increases. I was no longer depressed. It's what we call dopaminergic, right? It increases tyrosine hydroxylase, which increases catecholamines. Dopamine is a catecholamine, so that's what gives you the sense of well-being, the energy, and motivation to do better in life, right? So, and pulls me out. It pulled me out of depression. So, let me tell you what it does about the way you are treated in society as well. So, this air about me, the pheromone difference, right? The confidence, not to mention the new physical stature.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when I would walk into a bar, every head would turn, right? Or even when I just walk into a room, like every head turns. When I'd go into a bar, every head would turn, and then I'd walk through that bar, and the crowd would like part in front of me, right? That never happened to me before. I'd actually like just bump into somebody, and they'd turn kind of a little angry, and then they'd look at me and just suddenly apologize to me, right? And it doesn't. It's not just like this physical, physical appearance. It's more about an air.
The aura.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The aura.
Yeah, yeah, like an aura, right? Like
Yeah.
I said, there's different pheromones and a confidence that, and you know, people's behavior, there's subtle social cues that people take from behavior, and it kind of shapes how people interact with you, right? And testosterone gives you all of these just alpha kind of social cues, and it just makes people treat you different. My life was completely different. The way people treated me, not only was it physical, but it was the way people treated me as well. So while I was in college, I was a plumber, and I hated plumbing. I was terrible at it. I wasn't going to be a plumber. It was just my summer job. I had done it for years. I was terrible at it. But suddenly, after I started taking testosterone, my boss gave me a raise for no better reason than I stood before him looking stout with this new kind of mentality. Right? So I had always been a science guy. I happened to be in college for biochemistry at the time. So I started to tailor my degree to study hormones. I had to learn, and I read voraciously. I couldn't put the information down. So I had to learn what is going on here. Why is this helping me so much? And most of all, why is nobody talking about this? So again, I just read voraciously. Like most kids my age came home and they like to play video games. I just couldn't wait to come home from class and study and read about hormones and what is going on. So I really started to learn, right? And I started to learn how to use these, and you start to learn that it's nuanced, right? It's complex, right? Which is probably why also like a lot of the medical community does not really understand, and there's a lot of ignorance regarding this topic, and why they don't use it much because it is complex. But once you really start to learn how to use, I started to really learn how to use this. So other people would come to me that saw my transformation I was making, and they would ask me, I've seen the transformation you've made in a short period of time. Like, what is going on here? Like, what have you done? So I'd say, okay, let me show you. So I started helping other people, right? And when you help people, the respect and admiration, that I gained from other people, the appreciation, respect, admiration, and gratitude that I got from other people started to drive a dose response, right? Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. This, it made me feel good. It drove a passion to keep helping people. I kind of had finally found my niche in society, right? Like I didn't know where I belonged at this point, and I found something that, okay, I'm good at this. I can actually be a contributor to society. I can actually help people, and it's getting me respect and admiration. So pretty soon over time, people knew, like, I just lived in a small city, but they knew if you want to really dramatically improve your quality of life, and you can come to this guy and he'll help you. So I started helping more and more people, and over time, I realized I had to monetize this just because it was taking a lot of time, and plus I just didn't have much money. At the time, I I worked as a lab tech in a hospital at a local emergency room, and I only made like $270 a week. I could barely support myself.
Yeah.
The only reason I actually could had a place to live is because I lived at my grandmother's house and it was rent free, right? So you know, I couldn't really support myself. So I also needed some money. So like I started to monetize it a little bit, and to do this, like I was getting it from the black market. I started nailing down supply chains and really understanding how to procure a lot of this stuff to help people. Right. So I was just doing that on a really small scale, not making much extra money. One day one of my clients came to me and said that there was a website where people sold this stuff like I did, except he said that I had a lot more knowledge on how to use it and my prices were actually better. So he said, you should really go check out this website. I think you could do well on there. So initially I went home, I researched it, and I started really looking into it. And I said, holy cow, I can do this. Like I can undercut this market here. And I see the rest of the advice guys are doing, and they're not, you know, they don't have great customer service. So it was an arduous process, but this turned out to be the largest source forum in the world. It's like a source forum for people who want testosterone and derivatives. It's the black market, right? But it was an arduous process. I had to like create a website. I had to do all this stuff that was really difficult, and it took me a long time, and I had to get people to help me. But eventually, I became an official source on this website. Right? Otherwise, you know, I couldn't sell. Wasn't allowed to be a part of that source forum before that. Once I did this, I was still one of about 1,000 different sources. So like, how do I stick out? Like I said, though, other people just weren't doing the job that I could do. So with some pretty simple business practices, undercutting the market, really good customer service, really good information. And believe it or not, at this time, this was back in like 2010, 2011, the shipping times were really slow. And I was one of the first ones to just start using priority shipping. So people got their packages in 2 or 3 days. And that was a huge seller too. So some pretty simple business practices I just put into place that others weren't doing. And my business just blew up. So when I went into this, right, I just from my sources, I bought a duffel bag full of this testosterone and some derivatives and my laptop. And that's what I had. And I was going into this hoping that I could make $200 or $300 extra a week. Because again, like that would make me comfortable. And I didn't see like, I didn't understand the value that I brought to it. Right. Mm-hmm. I thought this was huge. There's 1,000 sources out here. Like, how am I even going to get any clients? Maybe I can just get a few people that I can help, you know, really help. And maybe it will give me, I was hoping for $200 or $300 extra a week. I thought that was a little overzealous. I didn't think that was possible. So, like I said, when I instilled these simple business practices, the business just blew up. It absolutely blew up. Within 6 months, I was bringing in $21,000 a week. Within a year, I was bringing in then $30,000, then $50,000. Then, like 3 years later, I was bringing in $100,000 a week. There was a couple of weeks where I brought in $500,000. It was crazy. There was a point when, and this will kind of give you like some of the mentality behind like what pushed me on, what drove it on. Like at first, I got scared because it got so big, and I remember I was holding $100,000 in cash at my house. And I never dreamed I would hold that much money. I would have that much just in one spot. And it was just, it was coming in as fast as as fast as I could collect it. And I got scared. I was like, this is too much. This went too far. Like, I'm going to get caught. Like, this is, you know, I knew it was illegal. So I actually made a plan to quit. And I remember like at the time I was sitting on my bed, my head in my hands, and I'm like, I got to stop. I'm going to get caught. Started to make a plan. Okay, I'm going to just fill the rest of the orders, and I'm going to tell everybody else I'm done with this. I got to quit. This got too big. I'm, you know. So, and then like suddenly like all these memes started going through my head. You know the memes like that where you're going through social media, Instagram or whatever. And you see these memes about taking risks to meet your goals, right? And success comes from taking risks. And all these memes like just kept going through my head. I'm like, well, this is a risk that I'm taking, and and it is yielding success in some way. And then I started to think as well of I get emails every day. I still I back then I got emails every single day, and I still do, of people thanking me. They thank me for making them a better husband or wife to their spouse, for making me a better mother or father to their children, making them a better supporter of their family. Right? Because that's what testosterone does. It gives you the energy to actually play with your kids and be able to be present. It gives you the emotional stability to be there for your wife. And again, it gives you the ambition, the motivation to step up at your job, or maybe take that side hustle so you can actually support your family better. So I've had people, again, thank me my whole life for this kind of thing. And when I started to think about, okay, now I have to, at the time I had like probably 1,000 clients. I said, I have to go to these 1,000 clients and tell them that I can't help them right now. I can't continue to help them dramatically improve their quality of life, because I have a little bit of anxiety right now. And I just couldn't bring myself to do that. So like, when I started this, it was largely about helping people. Like I couldn't tell all those people that. So again, like I had this dose response from helping all these people. And so, at first it was about that. And what that made me do is I just put my head down. I said, fuck this, I can do this. And I just made it bigger. And I just drove forward. I put these, systems in place to be able to deal with a lot more. I scaled the enterprise, was another way to put it, and just created this nationwide. I had six shipping operations. I had 5 chemist operations. I had, money collected, an army of money collectors all over the place. And I just created this, kind of large empire to deal with all this. But sometimes I get in, like, sometimes like I catch some flack for people saying, "Oh yeah, it was about helping people, like it wasn't about the money," and I think like just saying that all of this was about greed, right? It was just about making money. It's just too oversimplified. It's a facile way for people to wrap a bow around it and explain, why I kept going and kept making this thing bigger and bigger. Um, it certainly, the money was nice. I don't want to say that it wasn't a factor, and it didn't. It probably it drove some of the further and further expansion I wanted to make, or I ended up making. But in the heart of it was the passion about helping people, and all these people that were really being helped by these hormones. So uh, in 2015, I was indicted by Operation Cyberjuice. Um, I I remember I was in a penthouse. I had a penthouse overlooking Manhattan, and at 5 a.m. in the morning, I got this knock on the door, right? A pound on the door, and I got up and I was like, I can't. Is there somebody really pounding on my door right now? And they pounded again. And I remember I actually got angry, so I kind of went out into the living room, and I was angry. I was like, I'm going to tell these people not to knock on my door. So I swung the door open, and there was 15 DEA agents with guns pointed at my head. So that was the beginning of the indictment. I got sentenced to 78 months, or 6.5 years in prison. When I was in prison, I used my time wisely. I read voraciously about business. I got a mentor. The mentor and I created a business plan for a legitimate legal hormone replacement therapy company. When I got out of business, I started executing this plan. So here we go. Now I have hormonesforme.com, which is a hormone replacement therapy clinic. We have 50 states. We're nationwide. We have a few thousand clients at this point, growing very fast. We have Dope Martian, we have a podcast plus dialed in optimization products and genetic testing, where we'll be able to actually test your genetics, blood work, and have all of that read by a medically trained AI bot that's built by SG Analytics, one of the top analytic or AI firms in the world. And this will be able to really give give detailed information and actionable information more so than any other platform that exists out there, right? So, and we're going to have dialed in optimization products. So this will be things to really help the foundational hormone optimization. So, so I guess like it comes down. So then it comes down to this, right? This power of redemption, like. So now we're about legally, legitimately, um, and safely helping people dial in the hormones. And what did I learn about? What did my story teach me? Right. So you know how do I kind of stick out um, in this industry? Right. Um, I Well, I was able to successfully guide. At this point, I've been in this industry now for over 20 years. I've successfully guided over 20,000 people through the use of hormone. When we talk about the medical community, there's a there's a fundamental foundational problem with the education of providers regarding hormones. Right? They do not learn about hormones in medical school, which is why there's this stigma and demonization, almost this ignorance about hormones and how important they are. So they don't learn about them in medical school. Providers, doctors go to medical school, they study a broad range of topics, again, very little of which has anything to do with hormones. I have, I made my life about this at a very young age. I have been studying solely this field for over 20 years. And I have successfully guided over 20,000 people through the use of hormones. Actually, to 25,000 at this point, because since I've been out, we've had a lot of people that I've helped guided. So I have aggregated more empirical data than just about anybody in the world, if we're being frank, just because of my unique history, right? Like during the time I ran this operation and for more than 20 years now, I've been looking at blood work, guiding people through the use of some of these hormones, seeing how it reacted with people, looking at blood work to see what happened. So I've just again, aggregate more empirical data. I've had a vast amount of experience, more so than just about anybody else. I've just seen this on a more vast level. So that really, now we're able to partner with providers and other doctors and providers that share my vision on how to do this and how to do this properly. And what we discover is that hormones are the foundational element of all health, right? So hormones are much more important and pervasive in health than anyone really understands. And it's been proven that our environment is full of these endocrine disruptors. So as time goes on, our testosterone levels, our hormone levels are becoming more and more deficient. There's environmental toxins that, again, they're endocrine disruptors. They lower our testosterone levels currently are 50% of what they used to be in 1970. And that's in men and women. So we're learning that hormone deficiency is actually pervasive. And they're chemical signals, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, even thyroid hormones. They're chemical signals that control metabolism. They control, everything from I've seen these hormones be able to get people off of blood pressure medications, off of cholesterol medications, off of SSRIs and other depression medications because they affect neuroplasticity and neurotransmitters that give us a good sense of well-being, right? Such as dopamine, again, serotonin. I've seen it get people off pain medications, even opioids, because it's systemically anti-inflammatory and can really help joint pains. I've seen it get, let's see, like I said, it's just it's foundational for health. And if our hormones aren't, hormones, testosterone especially, reverses metabolic disorder, reverses diabetes. So, and it reduces cardiovascular disease that comes from metabolic disorder. Like the cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in the United States. And if we can get our metabolic disorder in check, then we're healthier. We have less incidence of cardiovascular disease in the future. So again, the story of redemption, it becomes now about helping people with this foundational hormone growth, hormone optimization so that everything else can work and we can get our long-term health in order. It's about safely helping people dramatically improve their quality of life. And Yeah.
Wow. Try saying that three times fast. No. um.
Yeah.
So, but like, okay, so cards on the table. Yes, I'm still wholeheartedly ignorant of the whole hormone balancing situation, but like, let's say you're giving someone like the testosterone. Isn't there a chance that they might just go through puberty again?
No, no. I mean, there's a certain time that we go through puberty, and you're right. It does have to do with hormones. But going, I don't think going through puberty again is the right way to frame it. It's more about putting you in a post-pubescent state where you have like for a male, it's like having all the male-like qualities. But also like again, it's not just about it's about energy, cognition. It's testosterone and DHT. They forms neuroplasticity. It really kind of forms your brain. It increases dopamine, which gives you a good sense of well-being, right? Like the ambition and feeling good. Um, Motivation. Again, your metabolic. It fuels your kind of signals your metabolism to operate properly. It is about muscle mass too, but muscle mass is very. I mean, that's one of the things that it
Yeah.
does. I don't like one of the stigmas is that oh, if you take testosterone, it's just because you want to look like a superhero, and that's just ridiculous, right? Muscle mass is what is very healthy. It can it reverse. It's most insulin sensitive tissue. It reverses diabetes. The only way we can increase our metabolism is to increase muscle mass, right? And so muscle mass is a great way to deal with this. Since the industrial revolution, we have this environment of processed foods, of very high calorie, high energy dense foods, sugars and high dense fats. And the best way to deal with that is muscle mass. Like those foods are what's causing cardiovascular disease, the number one cause of death, right? It's the cause of cardiovascular disease. That and sedentary lifestyles, right? So testosterone will help reverse that metabolic disorder that causes the cardiovascular disease, right? It reverses diabetes, it helps use your energy properly so that you're not depositing all this cholesterol in your arteries, right? So it lowers lipids. And there's a lot of positive things that come from it.
Mm. Um, could you tell me the difference between like the hormone balancing stuffs and is there a difference between that and juicing? Is that still a thing? Because I know it's the swole nonsense that's fake, but like I know juicing's actually like I think a thing.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so testosterone is an anabolic steroid.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the term anabolic steroid has a negative connotation to it because people just think steroids and you think, oh, that's this bad thing. And again, that's part of the problem, right? It's the stigma. Steroid is just a class of drug, right? Like prednisone is a steroid, right? It's just a class of drug, right? It's not. It doesn't necessarily mean anabolic steroids, but people always think of anabolic steroids, and the anabolic steroids is not a negative term. It just anabolic just means muscle building, and steroid is a class of drug, right? So testosterone is an anabolic steroid, but your body naturally produces it. And if it's deficient, you have all kinds of problems. You are depressed, you're fatigued, lethargic, you have metabolic disorder, you put on fat easier around your belly, you don't have the energy or motivation, ambition to go out and do better for yourself, right? You Cognitive function, right? The brain, especially DHT, really helps neuroplasticity, really form the brain and improve synapses, improve neural firings. And so these things like function to make all those more optimal. Right? And so the term anabolic steroids, yes, they say that for juicing, right? And testosterone is one of the anabolic steroids and all the derivatives that come from that. Like back in the '60s, they actually they actually saw the benefits of testosterone, right? And they realized that sometimes testosterone can have some side effects, so they really started um, researching all these different derivatives of testosterone where you can like just kind of change the testosterone molecule a little bit and it will still agonize the same androgen receptor, but they have slightly different effects, mainly from they don't they're a little different, right? So they started really researching, and there's a lot of positive benefits coming out of a lot of these what they call anabolic steroids, And again, it has a negative connotation, but they do some very positive things. It's just about, and then the problem, there's several things that went wrong, but one of them was the late 80s, the war on drugs,
Oh,
right? The war on drugs, they started, the government politics at that time was running on the platform of war on drugs, right? So it's an age old tactic to make the people afraid of something and then offer a solution to it. Right, so they made the people. I don't know if you remember at that time, in front of the national audience, he had a bag of cocaine, and he was like, "This stuff is ruining the country." Right, and then he was like, if you continue to elect us, we will do something about this." And they made, and at the late '80s, the war on drugs, they made. Not only did they make drugs really illegal, so cocaine became. They started putting people away for
yeah.
many years, and all the rest of the drugs, but they started controlling everything else around it. That's when like MDMA got controlled into a Schedule One controlled substance. They started putting people away for longer. Drug dealers are really they filled the prisons up, at this point. And they controlled testosterone at this point just because it looked like a drug. And again, they're just controlling everything that looked like a drug. And and the problem at that time was that when you control a drug, it makes it difficult, if not impossible, to research. So now they can't do further research to show, okay, there's a lot of benefits with this drug. And then it got stigmatized, right? It was not only that, but it was also steroids in baseball. I don't know if you remember Ben Johnson back in the Olympics. It was the 88 Olympics, I think. Ben Johnson was a Canadian sprinter, and he won. He beat United States. He got the gold medal, and then it was found out that he took an anabolic steroid. So then the whole world went up in arms about cheating, right? And then not too long after that, there was steroids in baseball where Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire, they had congressional hearings about steroids in the sports, and so it just got this negative stigma, right? And so after that, everybody just started thinking negatively about steroids, and then there was a crackdown on it. So now doctors didn't want to use it, and the stigma just kept pumping, and so it just got demonized. In reality, we find that it's getting better now, right? Like there's a lot of positive things happening in the last few years, especially. All the research is showing the benefits of testosterone. Recently, they've taken the black box warning off of testosterone. There was a black box warning incorrectly on testosterone, saying that it could increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. They've taken that off because it shows that it actually improves cardiovascular. It's cardioprotective. They're looking to reduce the restrictions on giving people testosterone because it's so beneficial. So what we find when you actually take away the demonization, take away the stigma, is that testosterone is one of the most beneficial medications in the history of medications. It's right up there with again, vaccines, that got rid of polio and smallpox, and antibiotics, which nobody dies of infections really anymore, right? So those are two that they've saved and continue to save just countless lives, and testosterone's right up there. It is absolutely dramatically beneficial to people, and there's really very little danger, very little risk. And you wouldn't know that, you don't learn about it, because the entire culture, the entire medical community has just remained ignorant to its benefits.
Okay. I do want to move on because we're past halfway, and I would like to move on to yeah. Unless one of you three have a question for Ryan Root.
No, I mean, this is great information.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing at the moment.
Okay. So one of the things that you wanted to bring up was the Jazz for Peace bit. Because I was looking through that PDF. For the record, I couldn't read through all 22 pages of that because, well, for multiple reasons. One, my day job at the school, seeing as how last week was Christmas, or rather, this past week was Christmas, and anyway, I could go on with that. But why don't you tell me about the Jazz for Peace thing you had? Do you want me to pull it up or?
Yeah, I will be totally candid here. I read something about the Jazz for Peace. I don't believe that was a part of anything that I sent.
Oh, because it was attached to the.
Was
yeah.
I may have. I think I may have like because it asked me to attach something, and maybe that accidentally got attached.
Well, that's fine because like I would actually move on to the other
Yeah.
topics I wanted to talk about were your hormonesforme.com and
Yeah.
especially Dope Martian because Dope Martian you said like acquires blood work, et cetera, and it goes
Mm.
through a medical AI that's been trained over tons of medical data.
Yeah.
Why not get a trained actual like health profession? Because like um I mean I could see the uses for AI. It's just that I could point to tons of examples where large companies were thinking like, "Oh, AI can replace these senior positions," only to quietly rehire those or put out those same job ads because AI is nowhere near ready. Why bank on AI for that particular thing for
Yeah.
Dope Martian?
It's a great question. So we do have, I mean, we still have the medical providers. We have medical providers. We have a chief wellness chief wellness officer, chief medical officer, Dr. Chakrabarthi, and him and I kind of train this AI. It's a specialized created AI that will use a lot of our algorithms, right? That we're doing this in a way that we've seen that to be very beneficial. Again, it's hormone replacement therapy is very nuanced. Right? It takes there's certain algorithms like if this then do this type of thing, and there's so many side effects, and it becomes this really nuanced thing. The reason AI is really beneficial for this, especially when we bring in gene testing, is because there is such a massive genetic code, right? And even if you're a medical doctor, there's no way you could memorize and understand all of the genetic data and every single say epigenetic factor or every single nucleotide polymorphism. Like what does that cause, and how do we ameliorate any condition that little gene mutations cause, right? There's no way that you could memorize all that. There's no class in medical school that teaches all that. So what we do is we have AI learn all of these genetic mutations, all of the possible ones, and then when we run your genetic code through there and with all the mutations that we find, it can again accrue all that data and use all of and be able to then come in and suggest all these fixes that we've predetermined for it for these certain mutations and put it all together with your blood work, and it can do that much more quickly than having one provider going over and studying all the genetic code in relation to your specific case. What it can do, what because and also the providers, and we've trained it to read all this data and then kind of analyze it and come up with actionable information and how to ameliorate any again mutations and to really optimize yourself. So it can just do so much more than a human could, as far as with time constraints and just being able to mentally hold all that knowledge and capacity. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but like, aren't you like afraid that like the AI itself will make mistakes? Because I can cite a ton of examples again where AI just completely fucked up or even fabric. Hell, one lawyer tried to get, I think it was either a defense or a prosecutor, tried to get a court case with to get the go ahead through a judge. Judge like did not. He saw through that whole that was that no that yeah.
So, one of the problems with kind of some of the AIs like ChatGPT or Gemini or some of the things is they do use the entire internet, and they scour the internet for all their data, and that means that all the bad information is out there too, right? So it's like, yeah, you can come up with bad information from especially about stigmatized things like hormones, right? But so what we had SG Analytics build us as this like singular, it's isolated from the internet and kind of wrapped with all the data that we wanted to feed it, right? And then and we have trained it over, we're running a lot of data through it, and then we just kind of train it and say, and we kind of give it these if then do this, if this then do this, like kind of prompts. And then we watch it spit out thousands of times and we say, okay, wait, this doesn't look right. Fix this. And then over time, over, actually over thousands and 100,000 of times of doing this, it learns like how a human would do this. So the information that does come out is checked by a medical doctor before it's released to the person.
Oh,
But it does allow us to save a lot of time and do everything that a human would do in a very short period of time, or do everything that a very very educated human would do in a very short period of time.
right. So, like, is that why keep the brands like separate, like Hormones for Me and then Dope Martian? I mean, is it just for for lack of a better, is it just to give you? Is it just to give one brand cover if the other like fucks up or something? I mean, like that. Like I'm that because like it would just make more sense to like combine the two, but at the same time, it's just, like I'm looking at it from like, um, and don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, no,
'Cause I'm looking at this like from like the total scumbag business side of me. I'll give you an example. Um, we can post onto streaming platforms for the time being until like we're taken down or whatever. Why does that make sense? Why is this relevant? If I were to go the full scummy side, I could download like a ton of original content, still give those creators credit, but like I could post it and say we produced it without their knowledge, and like so that's why I'm just like, what if I were to go the full scummy content? Maybe is that why he's keeping the brand separate so that way one has cover, if that makes any sense.
yeah. No, that's a great question, and a lot of people don't delve that deep into it. Although a lot of people do wonder about like why, and the name Dope Martian too. Like, what is that name? Like, it's weird. So no, it's a good thought process, and you're partially right. So the reason we separated these companies is one, hormones for me is just the clinical side of hormone replacement therapy. So that's where we partner with the providers, we partner with the doctors. When it comes to being able to advertise, where we have certain limitations where we can actually advertise medical treatments, right? So if we combined everything under the same company, like our advertising would look different because we can advertise more on Dope Martian because it's not clinical, even though it does have genetic testing and we even have blood work. That's not considered clinical treatment as far as just clinical technology, right? So the Dope Martian is more the technology aspect, and we're going to have dialed-in optimization supplements, right? That aren't clinical. You don't need prescriptions for. You don't need medical doctors for. So, and the second thing is Dope Martian. What we do is we took the name comes from. We actually work backwards, and if you think of it as something that you can brand, right? Something that you can own, and through I'm having a brain fart of what it's called when you go to search on Google, like for search revenue. What the heck? I'm having a brain fart. What that's called?
Optimization?
Yeah, right. Like
Keywords?
website optimization, right? Like or branding, right? Like Dope Martian is very unique and it's very brandable. Like if we use hormones for me, the word hormones is just used everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's not very, right?
Okay.
So it was business savvy in the sense of we look backwards and we say, what are these aspects that create really successful companies? And one of them is having a very unique brandable name that will stick out in website optimization, right? Or brand optimization. Dope Martian isn't used anywhere else, so it will stick out, right? And so we kind of worked backwards and said, what creates these things? Here's a name that's very unique, and let's create the company on here, and then let's separate it from the clinical company because again, we have limitations of what we can advertise and what we can do with the clinical treatment company, and then the technology kind of other application products. We can actually advertise that. We have much more freedoms to advertise. So that's kind of the reason for.
Okay. That makes sense. Last question from me before, because we're coming close to time. I was wondering, like, so, hormones for me, it is actually So there are plans that actually cover hormones for me, like actual insurance plans that'll like that will actually like take up the cost.
Well, I mean, there's a problem with insurance companies. One of them is that, well, so hormone replacement therapy is not considered medically necessary, quote unquote, even though we do save lives and we do prolong lives, right? And we reverse diseases, right? But it's not considered medically necessary. So insurances don't have to cover hormone replacement therapy. So, and you really don't want, because if insurance companies dictate, like, well, they'll dictate the treatment. They'll dictate how much you can use, when you can use it, like this and that. And you don't want insurance companies involved. So we don't take insurance, and we just make it as affordable as possible, and we make it pretty affordable. And this way you don't have to deal with the insurance companies, like, breathing down our necks or your necks and telling you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just much better without the insurance companies involved. So we just do cash, no insurance companies. And because they wouldn't cover it anyways.
Fair enough.
They don't cover hormones.
Fair enough. Okay. Like I said, we're coming close to time. Any three want to chime in?
No, I just think it's really kind of cool that you went full circle from, I mean, not really being able to find out if you even had more low hormones yourself, and now you're able to sort of give that, I guess, peace of mind and knowledge to other people. And yeah, it's just a wild story. It was great hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was. I mean, like, again, the passion started from me having my own low hormones, and then when I discovered the absolute dramatic improvement in quality of life, I was like, why is nobody else talking about this? And then when I started doing it for other people, I was like, this is a thing. This needs to be educated. So, like, one of our goals now, another thing, is we have an educational platform across social media where we actually educate people. And hormone deficiency is pervasive. Most people would feel better if they took hormones. Especially at a certain age, everybody should take hormones. And I'm not saying that every 18-year-old kid should come out and just jump on hormones. And I'm saying if you're noticing certain side effects, and at a certain age, everybody should be on hormones. That's unequivocal. There's no question about that. No doubt about it. It just makes your life much better, and prolongs life and prevents a lot of cardiovascular disease and metabolic disorders. Right. So it just normalizing the discussion and get people understanding, like, why am I fatigued after work every day when I used to be able to work all day long? Why do I have to take a nap in the middle of the day? Why am I just getting this belly fat and I can't get rid of it no matter what I do? Right. Like, that's all signs of hormone deficiency. Why am I depressed now? I'm not like I was when I was in my 20s. Right? It's all hormone deficiency, and we can fix it.
Okay, cool.
Do you do the opposite also? Like, some people might actually have overproduction of hormones. Do you do like any products there to like help wean them off to get them back to the right balance, or it's just all deficiency getting it up?
It's a great question. There's only a few, like, disorders where you produce too many, and like if you had a tumor on your pituitary or on certain brain centers on your hypothalamus, it could make you produce too many hormones, and that's where we get things like man, I can't believe I'm having these brain farts. But what Andre the Giant had, right, where he was producing hormone, right,
Yeah.
and that's pituitary or a tumor on the pituitary gland, right. So those things do exist, and there is medications that can help shut that down and shut it off. We're more on the hormone deficiency side. Like, we want to optimize your body with hormones. So if you had like a medical problem like that, you would go to your endocrinologist or probably your endocrinologist or neuro some sort of
Pathologist.
yeah, pathologist, yeah. But see, the problem is, though, like I said, that why don't you go to your endocrinologist for these hormone deficiency? Well, again, they've been demonized and stigmatized, and even endocrinologists have not learned about this in medical school. They don't understand it. They don't understand that it's beneficial, even if you're not in these ranges, and even if you're like what we call in range. And part of the problem is these testosterone ranges, right? Like, you can go get a blood test, you come back, and these ranges are completely arbitrary and rooted in nothing real. So somebody will have like a 300 testosterone. It's technically in the range, but you're still having symptoms of hormone deficiency, and that's not high. It's not enough testosterone. So the medical community hasn't adequately addressed what testosterone deficiency is, right? And this is part of the problem. Like I'll equate it to vision, right? Like we have a vision that we get everybody to shoot for. You go to your eye doctor, they test your vision, and they try to get everybody to this 20/20 vision. That's the standard, right? Well, we don't have that for testosterone or the rest of our hormones. Why don't we have a standard? Let's try to get everybody to this level because that's where most people are optimal and all their biochemical reactions are happening properly. We don't have that. And instead, we have the big range, and anything in the middle quartile or the lower quartile is actually deficient, and people are having metabolic disorders. They're showing signs of hormone deficiency, but the medical community just doesn't recognize any of that. So it's just ignorance and lack of understanding and lack of education, even in the medical community, even at the highest levels. They just don't learn about this. And so, like, we're specialists, we understand all this, and we can help you where your endocrinologist, your PCP, they just don't understand it.
So basically, like, everyone has their own range, particularly for their own person, based off the genetic factors. And if you put everyone into the box, it's not going to work for everyone.
It's absolutely correct. And that's exactly what we say is it's not about putting everybody in a box. It's not about putting everybody, like, wanting everybody in a certain blood range and a certain, on a certain dosage, on a certain protocol, or having certain side effects or symptoms, right? It's about developing a methodology to figure out what yields the best results for each individual. Right? It can be complex and it's nuanced, but that's why, like, we're professionals, and I've done this for over 25,000 people at this point. So that's why we're one of the best at it. That's why we're one of the larger hormone replacement therapy clinics in the country, and we're growing to eventually here be the largest.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on to the Chicken Coop. Hope you have a great holiday season and all of that good jazz. And thank you all for tuning in to the Chicken Coop. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can listen to us on Amazon Music, YouTube, and Spotify. You all take care. Later on.